Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI, the podcast that connects marketing to your business's revenue and covers everything you need to know to stay up to date in this crazy digital marketing world.
Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI. I'm your host, Shannon Allen, and I'm here with my favorite co-host, Krystal. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Shannon. How are you?
I'm good. Well, today is going to be kind of a fun topic. We have not had this topic yet on the cast. So we're going to talk about a platform that has flipped the streaming world on its head in 3 short years. Can you guess who that is?
I'm going to say Netflix.
It is Netflix. So think about this. For over a decade, Netflix told us they would never have ads, okay? Or an SVOD, subscription video on demand. You went there, you had to pay a fee. You know, back in the day, it was cheap, right? I remember when it was $5.99 a month and it was subscription based.
Yep.
Now, I think I'm paying like $24 for a family. So I don't even know. Do you guys have it? Do you have the ads?
We've always had to pay for a premium, but still have ads on Hulu and Disney and ESPN. We used to have the non-ad version, but now we have the ad version. We cycle through our platforms though. Yeah. So I don't even think we have Netflix right now, but when we do
Netflix
ads.
is always good for when I'm running low on something to watch. It, you know, the AI in it, the algorithm knows me pretty well of what I like. For a while there, I was letting my ex-husband use my login. He didn't create his own profile, and I kept going and going, that is such a stupid movie. I would never watch that. Why is that showing? Continue watching. Finally, I said to him one day, are you using my profile? And he's like, well, yeah, what's the big deal? I go, create your own, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have your own preferences. Even Brendan and I have our own separate Netflix.
My nephew Jackson has one at my house. So yeah, we're going to walk through kind of how they got there because they are now one of the fastest growing stores in CTV. Yeah. So I kind of want to touch on that. And FDS now has the ability to sell Netflix at a very affordable rate. And so it's something we're launching. We've launched with our reps and really just starting to talk to our clients about.
Let's start at the very beginning then, because as you said, Netflix said for years, we're not doing ads. We are subscription based only. It was their differentiator, right? It was not just the content, but also we'll never do ads. So what made them switch and how do we get there and how do we get where we are now?
So Reed Hastings, who was the former Netflix CEO, he for years said that ads would never be a part of Netflix. He was very adamant about that. And I do understand why, because Netflix did something nobody else was really able to do if you think back to when Netflix started, you know, they had it first where it was mailing to your house.
Oh, yeah. That's how I had it in college.
Okay. So it'd mail to your college dorm and mail to our house. It has grown and evolved. And they were one of the first to really successfully get to the subscription, similar to what like a Dish Network or DirecTV did, but at a very affordable price. So it was the quantity of people at a very low price. So that all changed in 2022. When their subscriber growth really, really slowed down because they were inundated with the AVOD platforms and soon to be the FAST platforms that was just free ad supported, content. So they lost about 200,000 subscribers in Q1 of 2022. And so they knew that for the first time in a decade that they had to shift.
Yeah.
And you got to give them credit because they knew they needed another vertical that could bring in to supplement what they were losing at a very fast rate. So they launched the ad-supported plan on November 1st of 2022, which was $6.99 a month. It is now $9 a month, the ad-supported plan is. So if you think about this, I think I was paying $6.99 for a subscriber.
Yes.
And now the ad-supported has moved up to just under $10 a month.
It's more expensive than the original was. Yeah.
So in year one, the growth was slow because I just don't think that people understood it yet, right? And the ones, we've all been there. We've all said it. Oh, I'm just used to not getting commercials, so I don't do that. The problem is we all wanted, everything was on a different platform. They eventually were like, no, I want that. So I'll watch the ads though.
Yes.
We all got to that point. One of the biggest things was that advertisers didn't really know what to expect. So when they were with platforms like Hulu and Peacock, they were already experiencing it. They knew what it looked like. They weren't sure what Netflix was going to look like. So I think people were hesitant. But by May of 2024, Netflix had 40 million monthly active users on that ad tier. That's a huge jump.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah. So that in a very short time, in less than 2 years, they made it there. So by November of 2025, that number jumped to 190 million monthly.
Wow.
So I think what they also did in this time, I don't have the stats here, but that they started to raise their subscription prices.
Yes.
So the ones that wanted to stay, they were going to pay that premium, and the ones that didn't would drop down to the different tiers.
Well, and I'm sure that was part of the cancellation too.
Oh, yeah.
Of because they always try to get you to stay when you go to cancel. Right?
I mean, but think about it. They grew 5 times in 18 months.
That's wild.
I know. So that revenue was a big measurement that they needed to work with. They were seeing a 2.5 times jump in revenue, which that's what they were missing. So it worked, right? This pattern worked, and it works for us. It works for our clients because now we have into something that we considered a walled garden, right? Facebook, YouTube TV, walled gardens that you can't get in. This is another way to get in. And I'm excited that we offer it starting as low as $1,500 a month with some of our Netflix clients. But this is really the evolution I was waiting for, was one more piece of the puzzle that isn't selling their ads programmatically, but you can buy the ad tier directly through Netflix.
So let's talk about the walled garden aspect of it, because that is something that we've talked about with Facebook and with YouTube, as you said. And it's not to say that a walled garden is bad.
No.
It's just that it can't be the only. But when you're thinking about your CTV mix and you're thinking about how to spend your budget for that, what should a local business owner be thinking about when it comes to the walled garden of Netflix and the value there?
Okay. So again, let me just reiterate. A walled garden is a platform that controls its own ad inventory, right? Mm-hmm. In order to buy Facebook, you have to go to Facebook. It does not sell it programmatically in an auction, right? It doesn't give their unused inventory to a platform that just divvies it up. The beauty of how we sell CTV with our clients is that we work programmatically, right? We have a combination of multiple different platforms similar to Netflix that sell it as an auction. So then we have a lot of consumer journeys that we can create. Now, when we want to go to Facebook, for instance, we have to go through that walled garden to buy inventory. Of course, they're not a streaming platform. But in comparison, something like Amazon Prime is also a walled garden, right? So you either go direct or you buy through a platform, and Netflix is not part of any of the programmatic buys right now. So it is a walled garden. YouTube is a walled garden. Amazon Prime is a walled garden. Hulu and most of the open streaming ecosystems are not. So Hulu, not to be confused with Hulu Live, Hulu is a part of a network platform that we do that auction, right? We programmatically do it. So why does this matter? So when we run that typical CTV campaign, we know that we can reach whoever we want. Netflix has good targeting, and there's a lot of people watching Netflix. But just like YouTube TV, I think in one of our other podcasts, we talked about people think everybody's on YouTube TV, when truth is it's like under 3% of viewership is coming from there because it's so fragmented out there. There's so many different things we could be watching.
Well, and so many people think, well, my neighbor and my best friend and my cousin, we all watch YouTube TV. Yes. Everybody I know watches YouTube TV, so they think that that's everybody in the world. But that's where you have to look at the data to say, where is viewership actually at?
Yes. And for me, if I was talking to a client, I would very much want them to reach the audience of who we're trying to target instead of trying to dictate a platform. However, there are instances where if somebody really wants to dip their toes, because I think of Netflix as a layer to what you're already doing with CTV, but if somebody doesn't have the buy-in, that is a good door to start with, is just using Netflix to see, because we know there is a lot of viewership there as well.
Let's talk about where we are right now with advertising on Netflix. So it's a walled garden, but they're also, like you said, they have really good targeting there. Who's actually watching Netflix with ads, and why does that matter for our local business owners?
They currently have 325 million global subscribers, and out of that, 190 million of them are the ad-supported tier. So if you are subscription-based, you are not part of this. You're not going to see that. So that is more than half of their entire base. So in the U.S., that ad tier skews younger and more diverse than traditional cable. So this is a really good example of a one-off of cable, because from a viewership standpoint, you're looking at some similarities. I mean, cable is still higher than a true Netflix, believe it or not, but it's also has a lot of different things that you can be watching it on. Mm-hmm. When you're buying Netflix, you can target by content, but you can also just do, if you think your audience is 18 to 25, you could pick, you can target that way on Netflix as well.
Okay.
70% of the U.S. ad tiers tune in daily. So some of this is their main form of TV, which helps us understand that 18 to 34-year-old skew, right? The average viewer watches about 41 hours per month.
Wow.
That is a lot of impression opportunities. So you can reach a good amount of people with a high frequency on there because of the amount of impressions.
Well, and if you think about that from a math perspective, there's 30, 31 days in a month, 41 hours. So they're watching more than an hour a day.
Yeah. So really, these are not light TV watchers. These are hardcore. They have their algorithm set, their profile. They know exactly what they're going to get, what's going to come next. They're waiting to see what's coming up new. So this is their main form of entertainment. And I have talked with a lot of people that they are leaning, more people do it this way in a sense that are younger because they're not missing linear TV. So they're not running to the YouTube TVs of the world, or they're not running to, anything that shows, the Hulu Lives or things like that, or cable for sure, because that's not how they were brought up. They were brought up sitting in front of Netflix, watching it on a subscription-based platform, right?
And they're going to watch whatever is the hottest, latest show, which a lot of the times is on Netflix.
Yes. And the nice thing about who is watching it is we kind of know who's watching it, but it's not ad fatigue. Netflix does do a good job of this. These ads are still unskippable. Only 1 or 2 ads are per ad break, which is not so hard. Like Peacock is more like that. There's not a ton of ads in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like some of the ads on even Prime or even Prime's not horrible. Hulu Live is bad.
Hulu is
like 4 minutes.
And
sometimes.
Disney is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And so
it's more than 1 or 2
yes.
ads. Yeah. And a lot of these ads are 15s or 30s.
Yes.
There's not very many.
I've noticed that it's usually, because we watch Disney a lot in our house with a 4-year-old, it's usually like 2 or 3 30-second ads, and then the rest are 15s.
Yep.
And it always ends with a 15. 15's always at the end of the break.
I think credit unions are constantly trying to go after a younger generation to get them to not be using the Venmos of the world and stuff like that, and are leaning into trying to find a younger audience. Well, Netflix is where you're going to find them. You're not going to find them on cable.
No.
So you're going to find them streaming, but if you really want to do something a little bit more niche, Netflix is a really good idea. So that with local businesses understanding who the audience is and who are the subscribers, that's really good to know that is that younger 18 to 34. It doesn't mean that somebody my age isn't watching it. It doesn't mean somebody my mom's age isn't watching it. It just means that some people at that age group are more likely, they're not used to paying for the paid subscription.
Well, if you look at the average or what it skews towards is just who dominates,
yes.
But everybody could be watching Netflix. So there's other new tools that Netflix is rolling out in 2026, specifically for advertisers. Dynamic ad insertion, interactive ads. What should our listeners know about where Netflix ads are going?
So 2026 for sure is the year that Netflix decided, okay, I mean, half the reason why I have the Netflix platform to work with is they're starting to work with very specific demand side platform companies out there to work with media companies and digital agencies like ourselves to really push this platform, right? So they really want to grow what they've got from an advertiser standpoint. So they're launching the advanced targeting now. So that lets advertisers reach audiences by education level. You can reach it by marital status, household income, and also what they call high propensity viewers. Mm-hmm. So think people likely to buy a luxury vehicle, right? So now we're moving up a little bit in the world as opposed to just the 18 to 34-year-old. This could be somebody that's looking for a luxury travel package, right? They're going to Europe, that kind of thing. So they're starting to differentiate themselves into what I would consider an audience segment. They're also working with what we've talked about in a lot of things we do, which is dynamic ad insertion. So they're testing this with WWE, and they'll expand to the NFL during Christmas Day games, which, remember, Netflix Christmas Day game in 2025 was the most watched streaming platform in history. Yeah, in history. I'm sure we're going to beat that.
Yep.
So this means Netflix can swap in different ads based on the viewer. So it's like doing true A/B testing, mm-hmm. but doing it live, right? So even during live programming, they're going to be able to do this.
So
now,
live football, typically on live sports, you're getting the same ad that other people are getting. Now, we have the ability to do live sports as targeted, but it's incredible that Netflix is now offering that too,
now,
because that's a big deal.
Definitely a higher tool. This isn't something that we're living in right now with what we're working with our clients on. And I do think this is something that we're going to have at our fingertips. We're starting more with more entry level of that 18 to 34-year-old with some basic targeting, but their tier levels are going up and they're only going to grow. And at some point, they're going to open this up to more than just really large businesses like Nike or Myers out there. They're going to do it with really big business, and they're going to offer it to any business that wants to have that really dynamic ad inserted, right? So, I mean, really cool things that are coming down the pipeline. So the interactive videos are rolling out in the US and Canada first. with a global rollout planned for right now in Q2. So we'll kind of keep that going. We're at the end of Q2. I haven't seen a ton of that, but I'm sure we're going to get some case studies on this. But basically, if you can picture a viewer being able to click a Netflix ad and add an item to their cart, like we've always talked about this, there is no click that's going on because there's no reason to. Netflix is, I think, trying to do a test to see, is that something people would do? They're watching TV.
I see on Amazon where it's like add it to your Amazon cart. On Netflix, is it like send me an email? Is it like...
I don't know the answer to it. I mean, my problem is, and I probably need to move to this, but I'm on the subscription base, so I don't see it a lot. So I have to pull mine a lot from any of my research. So did you say you do have it?
No, we don't. I don't think that we have the ad-supported version on Netflix. I can do that.
Think about this too. They're going to be expanding what we call the programmatic partnership, right? So I talked about this earlier with the audience and what's the benefit of the walled garden, but they are starting partnerships with the Trade Desk, multiple DSPs. So Trade Desk is a demand side platform. They're working with Yahoo demand side platform, Amazon, Google's DV360, which is their demand side. So they're really looking to start to pull that partnership together with LiveRamp, who is part of that equation of how you can start to do the targeting better. So, right, first you need inventory, which is demand side, and then you need targeting capabilities, which is LiveRamp. Mm-hmm. So it's going to get better and better and better. So you want to get there. You know, they started at 4,000 clients and look where they've grown. Yeah. 3 years ago, it was a handful. That tells you that the industry believes Netflix is a real channel now on this AVOD platform, right?
So let's talk about FDS's offering of Netflix, because we just launched it now with our marketing consultants and with our clients. We're starting to have these conversations. What does a Netflix buy look like for our audience?
Okay, so that's a great question. When I do the training, I really talk about this as a layer to CTV. Again, I'm okay if it's an entry point as well. But knowing that 190 million monthly ad viewers, knowing that there are 41 hours of TV time per month, 60% are choosing this ad plan, right? So the way that we set it up right now, we are setting it up. It's a $50 CPM. It's very expensive, but we also are only starting an entry point of 50,000 impressions monthly. So 50,000 impressions to start as a bare minimum at a $50 CPM. So if you're buying directly from Netflix, you could pay up to $65 a CPM. And a lot of their minimums are going to make you spend in that $500K plus in a year. Right? We're not requiring that.
That's the benefit of working with an agency.
That's the benefit of working directly with a digital agency. So we have the ability to target age, gender, household incomes, right? Homeowners, families with children. We can do the content, right? Do you want to target somebody in action, comedy, drama, romance, right? Sci-fi. So you really want to find an 18 to 34-year-old female, go after the romance, right? Mm-hmm. You can do geo-targeting by DMA, state, city, zip code. So any of those, just like we can do with any of our CTV, you can also day part, right? You can make the decision to say, I want morning, daytime, evening, primetime, overnight. Now, I always tell our clients, why are we dictating when consumers watch their TVs? Why are we making that decision? People don't work 8 to 5 jobs anymore. People consume at 3 a.m. if you can't sleep. We should let that run naturally, in my opinion, unless you really have a very good reason of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So the one thing that came to mind when you were talking about that, especially when targeting by content, was all of the holiday Hallmark movies that are on Netflix. Yeah. Every season, if you're trying to reach women.
Well, honestly, there's a lot of cool strategies you could do with this. I like to start more organically and see how something is working and what the results are. And again, don't always dictate when consumers take in content. Just decide that we know they're on Netflix, right?
Yes.
And then again, you can do devices. It can be any device. I mean, the bulk of it's going to deliver to your large screen, but it can be desktop or mobile. Some kids are watching it directly on their laptops every day, and we can deliver that. Yeah. And so you can choose either a 15 or 30. We do not do 60s, just 15s and 30s, just because that's what Netflix platform they offer, but it's more expensive and they're just not as engaged, right? Yeah. So we do, it's pre-roll and mid-roll, and they're all unskippable. So it really is a value to go and either layer it on to an existing campaign or get your feet wet, start from the ground up.
So let's bring it back to ROI, because that's the main focus of our podcast here. For a local business owner trying to decide if Netflix belongs in their digital plan, what does the math look like and how are we tying it back to ROI for them?
We always love the ROI question. Again, at a $50 CPM, which is the $2,500 buy, we think that's a very good entry level price for what you're going to accomplish. Grow to 100,000, get to 150,000 if we see that there's more reach that we need or has a low frequency. But ROI conversation is still getting back to their original goals. Like, what are we trying to accomplish with ROI? What's the goal of running CTV in general, right? So Netflix generally isn't always a standalone buy. If you're mixing it in, the goal is to follow the consumer journey. So for an auto dealer or credit union, the answer is be there. That's one more layer of where you're going to reach farther into the consumer journey. So ultimately, the more people we reach, then we're going to be able to track. Are they coming back to your website? Are you seeing sales go up? How are you tracking that? We are tracking website conversions, which means we delivered them the commercial, went back to the website within 30 days. That's a great trackability. But it's really about, this is where one of those conversations, just like why you buy radio and TV back in the old days with TV, is somebody didn't walk in and say, this is how many people converted to your website. We really measure sales and phone calls and website traffic, right? So an ROI conversation is only as good as the information we're given from a client and what the ultimate goal is. But I do like to be very clear. CTV is still, it's one step closer to targeting that old school broadcast TV doesn't offer. And there's a lot of businesses that have run that for years without any ROI measurement. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, how do we bring it back to ROI? When you start any campaign, set your standards and your goals of what are you trying to accomplish. And if you accomplish those sales goals, those form fills, the website traffic, more leads that you're trying to close, we can only bring them to the website, right? We can't necessarily walk through the deal with them. But set those goals up front and then see if there is an increase because of the branding that we're doing.
Well, the branding, I think, is key because when we talk about our solution, CTV for us falls under branding. Right. It's not a lead generator, but that brand awareness is really powerful. And so just knowing that you're targeting these people on this platform is really powerful. And that's a great way to measure ROI.
Well, I'd like to say this too. $50 CPM, my reps at first were like, wow, because our highest rate on programmatic is going to be a cheaper buy. But there's TV linear out there selling OTT at $50 CPM, $45 CPM. We're lower than that. We're at 42. And if you blend it, we're at 39 for the premium targeted.
Yeah, for our most targeted capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy blended for $20 CPM if you're just going for high reach. Mm-hmm. But there's going to come a point when Netflix is going to be supply and demand. And so at a $50 CPM now, it's very affordable because it's going to get to $60, $70 CPM. Mm-hmm. It even goes higher. I mean, there's some of these minimum buys are that to even buy it is $15,000 a month. I mean, that's YouTube TV. Like on a base level, wholesale level, you're going to pay that. But on a retail level, you're paying $28,000 to $30,000 a month to be on YouTube TV. And Netflix, if you go really high, you might be paying that. But this is an entry level to really get your feet wet. And especially from a local standpoint with a DMA, just in your DMA, you can reach your Netflix people.
It's incredible.
So it's a good thing. So this is fun. We'll do another follow-up maybe in a couple months and see what's changed and what some of that A/B testing was doing. I think that'd be a fun one to do.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. We know that Netflix is going to be that big story. So we'll do a part 2 in a couple months. This is Shannon and Krystal. Thank you for listening and tune into our next episode of Digital Marketing ROI.
You've been listening to Digital Marketing ROI from Federated Digital Solutions. Do you have an idea for a future episode or a burning digital marketing question? Text ROI to 45364 to get a link where you can share your idea. Subscribe to get new episodes every other Thursday, plus Tip Tuesday insights every week.
Podcasts by Federated Media.